Hi, welcome to Solving Science. Today, it's another big one. Why does E equal mc squared? As Einstein enlightened us in the world in about 1905. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And don't just say, oh, because it is, because obviously some people are saying, oh, well, it just is. We need to know why. Why specifically does energy equal mass times the speed of light squared? What is that? Why does that happen? So if you've been watching and following the channel, about 4.5 months ago, I had an idea of what gravity could be. 4.5 months later, I have got quite a substantial portfolio of evidence about expanse tension theory and its expansion and extension to the standard model of general expanse tension theory. So let's look at E equals mc squared, the most famous equation in the world that most people know. It's the formula that powers nuclear reactors. It's the formula that explains why particle annihilation takes place. It works perfectly, but there is a brutal, uncomfortable truth. We don't know why. In 120 years, nobody has been able to say, why does this formula hold true? Why in this exact form? Why is energy proportional to mass, and what is specifically about c squared, the speed of light squared? So let's have a look. So I'm going to try and unpack it and say, firstly, let's look at the terms. What is mass? What is mass? Well, what do we know about mass? So we say it's something that objects have. So there's matter is assigned a property mass. So it's something that objects have mass. Something inertia and gravity depend on. So things with mass are responsive to gravity. Things with mass possess inertial energy, mechanics, the energy to move something. And it's something that time dilation knows about. So this slowing down of the tick of clocks, temporal separation resistance relies on the presence of mass. In 2012, we learned that the Higgs field is licensed matter with the property mass through something called electroweak symmetry breaking. So matter is assigned this property mass at that point of time. So we started to learn a little bit more about what does mass mean fundamentally at that point. So what does general expanse tension theory have to say about mass and this famous equation? Well, the paper that was released about a week ago now, there's a logic behind this, and I'll talk through it. Forever, humans have known objects require energy to move. Even with the absence of friction, it requires energy to move objects. Inertia. So we've always known there's been a relationship between inertial mass and energy required to move things and mass. For about 350 years, since the days of Robert Hooke and Isaac Newton, they knew about gravity was proportional to mass. Okay, so gravity. We've known since 1905 that time dilation is linked to mass in some way. There's a proportionality linked to the curvature of space-time equations. And since 2012, we've known that electroweak symmetry breaking of the Higgs field is what licenses mass. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm not changing or breaking or bending relativity in any way. I'm not adding any new constants. I'm not breaking relativity. So just to be absolutely clear, general expanse tension theory reproduces the outcome and the values and predictions of general relativity where it's valid. And of course, it's not valid in a lot of places because it can't explain dark matter, dark energy, and etc., etc. But I've used expanse tension theory to unpick this term mass. And the conclusion of about 2 or 3 weeks ago was that electroweak symmetry breaking is the point where 3 projections emerge into reality, and it's Gravity, inertia, and time emerge as three resistances to the field which expanse tension theory posits is true. That being, resistance to universal expansion gives us gravity. The net flow imbalance to expansion of the universe is happening above us. The mass of the Earth is resisting that expansion. We are resisting expansion of the universe. That reaction force gives us gravity in expanse tension theory. The resistance to velocity change is inertia. It emerges out of electroweak symmetry breaking. It gives us a resistance to velocity change. And a resistance to temporal separation, time dilation, again, also emerges out of electroweak symmetry breaking. So in here, what I'm saying is mass is the combination, the composite of three resistances. And their resistances to this Holland-Higgs field, this underlying pervasive field that goes across the universe. By the way, that field, fully permitted within quantum field theory. I've not invented anything at all with this field. It is a gauge invariant singlet scalar field. It can couple and uncouple to the Higgs field doublet in a density dependent way. So that's what expanse tension theory posits. Okay, so mass isn't stuff. Mass is resistance. Okay, it's stored resistance within our universe. Okay, so now what is energy? Well, energy now is resistance made mobile. Okay, so think about it. We've got mass at rest. Mass possesses a resistance to the universe expansion, to this field, an underlying field. So if you make energy mobile, you are then fighting against this resistance where mass wants to be held in a stable condition. Accelerating mass requires energy because you're reconfiguring the field around it. An easy way to think about that is, imagine firing a bullet into water. The water needs to reconfigure itself around the bullet. So if you move anything, you are reconfiguring the field that's around us. Now, this field strength is tiny, but it still gives us kinetic energy equation, half mv squared. The energy to move something in the absence of friction is still there. So why c squared then? What's the significance of the speed of light squared? What is that? So the paper on EMC squared resolved by General Expanse Tension Theory explains that c squared, and we say it's the speed of light squared, it is the speed of light squared, but the speed of light is traveling at the maximum invariant causal speed of the universe. Okay, so the significance of the speed of light is that it's the maximum speed anything in the universe can reconfigure that field, and it just happens to be the speed of light. It can't be any other field. It is simply the maximum rate at which the field can reconfigure, which is why if we try and put more and more and more energy in, you can't propel mass beyond or even up to the speed of light, because the amount of energy you require becomes infinite. And it's because you're trying to reconfigure the field that is effectively blocking the path of what you're trying to do. So in expanse tension theory, it is the maximum rate at which anything can reconfigure this field. So the resistance lives in the field. The releasing energy is reconfiguring that field. So E equals mc squared, where mass is resistance, these three resistances, and c squared is the maximum causal rate. So E equals resistance times the maximum reconfiguration invariant rate of the universe. Okay, that's fun. It can't be any other speed. It's not E equals mv squared of just velocity. It's the actual maximum causal invariant rate of reconfigure of the universe. What did it achieve? So the paper, I'll link to it. I can explain and recreate things like nuclear energy, particle annihilation, the accelerators, particle accelerators, radiation, inertia, time dilation, the equivalence principle, exactly as general relativity posits that they work. So what this paper does is attempts to explain why E equals mc squared. The answer isn't because it is, just because it is. The answer has to come from a physical understanding of what's happening. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. This is another string to the bow of expanse tension theory, and I'm looking now at the portfolio that's been built. One idea, one framework, and again, I'm applying it to lots of different things, and it's giving some kind of explanatory cause. So that's where I am. Being able to apply expanse tension theory now to E equals mc squared is quite a major achievement for the theory. And if you look at the other major competing theories for physics, which we desperately need, of course, because of dark energy and dark matter and the Hubble constant and all sorts of things. So we do desperately need a new theoretical framework for the universe. Of course, some of those other leading contenders can't explain why E equals mc squared like general expanse tension theory can. So it's performing quite well. Anyway, please subscribe, please share with physicists, cosmologists, scientists, anybody with a technical mind. Follow the series, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.